And hello, friends. I want to take a couple of minutes just to talk about the current issue as I see it between Russia and its invasion of Ukraine. Let me declare at the outset that I see no good people in this battle. There are no sides wherein I would say I will pick a side. I cannot. I think that Putin has certainly overstepped, overreached. I would probably have less of a problem if he had simply claimed the Donbass region, which the great majority of inhabitants there speak Russian and have been bombed repeatedly. I think the number 13,000 civilian deaths have been attributed to the Ukrainians from bombing and shelling them over the past 5 to 6 years. The Ukrainians have been settled with a government that legitimate or illegitimate. I don't know. They can quite easily swap out their president, and um, well, there's just something special about some countries which will not change in the immediate future, or at least not during my time on this planet. But having said that, there are some people who just need to be quiet, who really should just shut up. They should not be listened to. And some of these people are being described as leaders, my leader, even, which is a little insulting, as they offer they offer nothing that I want. I am deeply anti-war. I am skeptical of propaganda from all parts, all regions. I like to arrive at the truth, so I'm prepared to listen to all discussions and all angles that are sensible, of course, within reason. Um, and neither will I accept the being treated. I do not wish to be treated like a child nor a simpleton. And so, having said that, I want to play this little piece by the American Vice President Kamala Harris, and it's embarrassing. And she should be embarrassed, and Americans should be embarrassed because I'm embarrassed for her as she describes the issue between Russia and Ukraine. Just give this a listen.
How she summarised the situation in Ukraine.
Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
No, that is problematic in so many ways. In so many ways. Because it simplifies something that she could have answered by saying it's a very complex situation. You know, we're trying to solve this through diplomatic channels. Maybe Putin jumped the gun, or maybe Putin he had enough. That the West had maybe broken or wasn't showing some of the agreements of the past, could not honor it, and the Ukrainians felt a certain urge to that these things could have been done because I'm being told to listen to them, but they fail to listen to the actual parties involved with this. And we're talking. I hear them talking about defending democracy. Democracy. So it leads to this woman, currently on the screen now. She is the United Kingdom Foreign Secretary, and she is in over her head. She should not be involved in these very demanding times. This situation is way beyond her because she has offered very dangerous advice to people who should not really do not listen to this woman. She does not have your best interests. She does not have my best interests at heart. That is a given. I don't know how it is she thinks, as I'm trying to line up the video, how it is she thinks that the solution that she wishes to provide, or her recommendation, give this a listen. This is outrageous. Let's hopefully it plays, and there we
People
go.
of Ukraine are fighting for freedom and democracy, not just for Ukraine, but for the whole of Europe, because that is what.
So they're fighting for freedom and democracy, not just for Ukraine, but all of Europe. What's that based on? Or you can't just make crap up, in my
President
opinion.
Putin is challenging. And absolutely, if people want to support that struggle, I would support them in doing that. So,
Okay, so she has recommended that British people should go to the Ukraine to help in the fight for freedom, for the Ukrainian freedom and European freedom. Meanwhile, they're not free in their own countries because we spent 2 years or 18 months or whatever total time in lockdown, whether or not you were a free thinking man or not, or woman. So what freedom is she talking about here? Because she's talking absolute nonsense in my mind. So, and Putin has not said that he wants, Putin never said that he wants Europe. Putin simply said that I will not stand to have NATO in my backyard. The agreements that were made by the West have not been adhered to by the West, and NATO has expanded. There are many commentators who are saying, well, what is the purpose of NATO today? What is the purpose of NATO? It doesn't offer anything. Oh, wait a minute. What it does is it offers this for arms manufacturers to make a lot of money, because once a member state or becomes a member of NATO, once a state becomes a member of NATO, they have to allocate a certain amount of their budget to purchasing arms, weapons, defense systems from contractors. Liz Truss, please. I have no trust in Liz Truss.
to support that struggle, I would support them in doing that. So you support absolutely if that's what they want to do.
Now, here's something that's very, very important. And Liz, so Liz is calling for British people to go to the Ukraine to fight for freedom. Now, what she should have done, she should have qualified that as well. She should have said, well, if you are black, Asian, maybe gay, if you have any sort of handicap, if you do not have blue eyes, if you are not white, don't go. If you're a Muslim, don't go. Actually, you might be able to get away with it. There are many Muslims in that region. But is she aware of the situation in Ukraine with the level of discrimination and racism? Is she aware of this? As we've heard, and which you were about to see in a minute or two, about the level of racism that is actually highlighting the reasons why people of a certain ethnic minority should not go. Now, also coupled with Liz Truss's thinking, or the extra danger in Liz Truss's thinking, is that if only white British men go, and with Ukraine having the reputation of being filled with Nazis, and it is a real concern, is there not also the risk that these white men might be radicalized and become Nazis? Are you encouraging white British men, because no black man should go and end up fighting besides next to someone who is a Nazi? No Jewish man should do that. No homosexual man, because the Nazis are not that welcoming. And yes, they are Nazis. Let's not be confused. Liz Truss, very interesting personality who should not be in her position.
I do support that. And of course, that is something that people can make their own decisions about.
Well, what we're seeing that the Ukrainian forces are continuing to resist Russian advances. And last night, the G7 agreed that we would cut access for Russia to the SWIFT banking system, that we would target.
Now that's going to truly hurt the Americans more than anyone else. I don't think the Russians rely on that so much. Or the citizens, they will find other avenues to exchange currency, money, wealth.
The Russian central bank that will be putting more sanctions on oligarchs and companies. And you can see the reaction in the international markets. You can see the damage already to the Russian economy. But I fear, Trevor, that this will be a long haul. I mean, this could well be the beginning of the end for Putin. I urge the Russians not to escalate this conflict. But
Okay, so at the same time she's asking the Russians not to escalate, the West desires to escalate. At the same time, Putin says he's ready for peace talks. He said this 3 or 4 days ago, or 3 or 4 days after the invasion. He said to Zelensky, he said, let's talk now. Let us talk. He wanted to talk ages ago, but the West were not listening. He's talked and talked and talked. Again, I am not a supporter of his actions. I believe he has overreached, and I'm staunchly anti-war. And as I stated, there are no good people in this. You cannot find me one, and she certainly is not one.
we do need to be prepared for Russia to seek to use even worse weapons. We are looking at what more we can do, Trevor. And the Prime Minister was very clear last night that we will be welcoming refugees.
Okay, and so here's something else that's interesting. Boris, I need to state that I still haven't forgotten that you had lots of parties during lockdown while people were dying and mired in misery. You were enjoying parties while we were at risk of being charged, imprisoned, locked up, disenfranchised. Yeah, we haven't forgotten. You're not out of this, man. You are far away from being able to escape your current situation. You're still in it.
In Ukraine. Now, if the Russians are serious about negotiations, they need to remove their troops from Ukraine. They cannot negotiate with a gun to the head of the Ukrainians. So I would support the idea of having ceilings on how much oil and gas is imported from Russia. So over time, we cut the dependency right across Europe. I've compiled a hit list of oligarchs.
A hit list?
Who,
is Abramovich on it?
I'm not going to say who is on.
She has compiled a hit list, and probably she's not talking about actually having people expired, but that is such sinister language.
The list, but what I can tell you is there are over 100 billionaires in Russia. We have compiled a hit list of oligarchs.
Well, it seems that the United Kingdom created a few billionaires last year, or last 2 years during this pandemic. Well done. Maybe we can catch up with the Russians and be just as powerful.
We're working through and putting the cases together, and every few weeks we will sanction new oligarchs.
Now, here's another thing. What if the oligarch, or the oligarchs that she targets, are not in support of these actions of Putin? Do they have to declare allegiance to Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, to the United Kingdom, to Europe? These people are amazing.
Yes, there will be an economic cost here in Britain.
And great. So she just said that it's really going to hurt. Their actions are going to truly hurt British people. So, as we continue to trip through this, I also want to just have a quick look of what it is that Liz Truss describes as an important element of freedom. Okay, so this little bit is from a well-revered Newsnight, I think BBC production, and like just when and how, where does this end up?
That yellow armband is a Volksangle, a German symbol used by several SS divisions during the Second World War. far-right graffiti.
All right, so you get that the Wolf's angle, which is a symbol that the SS used. Those are Nazis. Those are Nazi symbols worn by men who are in very powerful positions, who have been they were once upon a time a militia, but the government absorbed them into the National Guard for Ukraine. So Liz Truss, if you listen to her, has recommended that British men go fight next to Nazis.
She is appearing, daubed on the walls of the city. The people who brought down the government were overwhelmingly ordinary Ukrainians, students and doctors, workers and even families, people who simply refused to back down. But the most organised and perhaps the most effective were a small number of far-right groups. When it came to confrontations with the police, it was often the nationalists who were the loudest and the most violent. A group calling itself the Right Sector is perhaps the largest. Its members can be seen marching around Kiev in columns of about a dozen. Mostly they carry baseball bats.
Well, isn't that pleasant? Isn't that a wonderful, wonderful thing? So look, here's a Ukrainian youth program.
We met these men posing for pictures outside the burnt-out remains of what was once their headquarters. I asked them about their political beliefs.
Национал-социалистская тематика иногда в некоторых людях она есть проступает, как бы, чтобы была единая нация. Но не у всех это не заложено в основе этой организации, это у некоторых людей есть.
А у вас?
У меня лично есть.
В смысле? Объясните.
Мне как бы нравится эта идея единой нации. Я хочу, чтобы нация была единая, чтобы...
One nation, one people, one country. And it sounds fine. But listen.
Это подразумевается что? Что...
как бы, чтобы чистая нация.
This young man wants a clean nation.
Не то, что там, как бы у Гитлера как было, в своем роде немножко, маленько, но было, чтобы своя нация.
What about the East, I asked? What about Crimea, where many Ukrainians feel close historical ties to Russia?
Кому нравится Россия, пусть едут в Россию.
And fair enough.
Только для украинцев.
Ukraine should be for Ukrainians, I agree.
Police have largely disappeared from the streets of Kiev. Law and order is maintained by so-called self-defense groups. Not all...
Okay. Very interesting. Very, very interesting that Liz Truss supports this. She absolutely supports it. So it doesn't get easier with Liz Truss. At least her thinking. So here are some more Nazis.
The protesters are back. But in place of ordinary citizens, now they're battle-hardened fighters. They're the same slogans as last year. Ukraine above all else. Glory, glory, glory. But in the mouths of the right sector, they take on a more sinister aspect.
Well, there can be few more poignant depictions of how unfinished Ukraine's revolution is than this sight. All of these people bearing the banners of the far-right group, these people who helped overthrow Ukraine's pro-Russian president a year and a half ago. And they've been telling me that they want to bring down this president as well. Glory to Ukraine, they shout.
The banner of the right sector harks back to a Ukrainian nationalist movement from the 1940s. They say the colours represent the blood of Ukrainians spilt upon their country's black soil. Their critics call them fascists and neo-Nazis.
We all love our country. If we love our country, we are neo-Nazis or not? I think not. So, I mean that we are nationalists. Revolution wasn't finished. That's why the people who don't love Ukraine came to control Ukraine. For me, it's not normal.
Oh, there you go.
On a summer afternoon
Ukraine.
in a park in Kiev, it's
Ukraine, he is saying, should be filled only with Ukrainians.
easy to forget all that's happened here in the past 18 months. The revolution, which is known here as Maidan, overthrew the government and then set this country hurtling towards war. Just as it did during Maidan, the right sector has played a key role in the fighting in the east. Its members are more motivated than Ukraine's conscripted regular army, and the government relies on them to bolster their strength.
All right, so that action that you're seeing is old footage from 2014, 2015, wherein which they had that, well, it was a revolutionary, and the people of the Donbass region did not like the idea that the person who had been made the head of the country, president, he was deposed. Sorry, there was a coup, a military coup. Lukashenko was removed, and they decided they no longer wanted to exist under where democratically elected people could be just chucked out of office. So they decided they consider themselves to be Russian because they are Russian speakers. So as simple as that, Russian speakers, but they have their own region. Now, if we're prepared to recognize the sovereign right of statehood for Ukraine, why doesn't that not also hold for the Donbass region with Donetsk and Luhansk? Let us continue.
Now they're flexing their muscles. In recent weeks, the right sector has been involved in firefights with Ukrainian security forces in the west of the country, hundreds of miles from the front line. These clashes in Mukachevo on the border with the European Union were about control of lucrative smuggling routes, but it was also a show of force.
Okay, lucrative smuggling routes. And you want the soldiers, you want British people to go pick up arms to defend what? You want me? We're trying to choose the better evil. It would seem we're trying to find and support the better evil. Now, I want to conclude this video, so I'm gonna just speed this up a little bit. This is concerning the problems at the border, my friends. Problems at the border. And if you had any doubts whatsoever about the situation on the ground, for people who are not Ukrainian, have a look. This is what I'm speaking about here. This is a thing that has left me troubled more than any other thing, because we're being told. Liz Truss wants people to go and help people who act like this. And I'm not opposed to that. I'm really not opposed to that. But at least we know what the deal is.
There's been a lot of violence.
Now, you could take that as being interaction that might have been a little racist, might have been, but I'm not going to say that because I know beyond the shadow of a doubt these people are stressed. Everyone is stressed, and he could say that just as easily to any other white fella. It's no damn. That's not problematic, but this is.
We are not allowing any
outside, inside the gate. We are all here. It's only Ukrainians that they are allowed in. Even the ones
हम लोग सब रोमानियन बॉर्डर पे खड़े हैं, रोमानियन यूक्रेनियन बॉर्डर पे अराउंड 500 to 600 बच्चे हैं। ये लोग यूक्रेनियंस को बहुत प्रेफर कर रहे हैं, यूक्रेनियंस को भी।
Right. So Liz, answer this. What should the Romanians do with people of color? These students, these are very young people, highly impressionable, real leaders of the future. What are they supposed to do? What are we supposed to do to help them? Because the fighters you're sending in, they're not going there to go rescue these people. You're talking about taking out bombs against the Russians and to go maybe potentially be radicalized and become a good Nazi. Oh, ain't that something?
ठंड इतनी है कि हम बता नहीं सकते इतना ठंड और कुछ शेल्टर नहीं है वॉशरूम का कोई ये नहीं है शेल्टर नहीं है कहीं पे कुछ खाने पीने का कुछ ये नहीं है रेस्टोरेंट नहीं है पूरा ओवर क्राउडेड हो गया है
They are not yet allowed us in. Indian students are being attacked with sticks and stuff.
Imagine if that was your son or daughter, your sister, your brother. Truss says, let's go fight for these people because they're fighting for the freedom of Europe. No, not. That's not a freedom I'm interested in. Screw that. You're still being categorized and mistreated. You're not the right type, not the right color. You know, this is madness, absolute madness. Truss should be ashamed of herself. She needs to be removed from her position. In all honesty, it's just not a good situation at all, in my opinion. But who am I? Who am I? And so finally, they're just gonna cover this young woman who's well, my heart goes out to her because this is not what she signed up for. This is just unacceptable. So let's give her a listen to as she describes the conditions that she's having to survive. Let me see if I can get this rolling. I have to do some serious editing.
This evening, because you did tell all of South Africa through your social media updates that you are not okay at all.
Yeah. Yes, so we really aren't okay right now. We are, I don't know if you can hear it on the far left. You can still hear the bombings continuously going on. We literally have no idea what we're supposed to do, where we're supposed to go. I'll turn my camera around so you can have, I wish I would turn my camera around so you can have like a full view of where we're sleeping. We're literally just underground.
Please go ahead and do that, Vutlari, while you tell us a bit more. We would like to see where you are and get a sense of your location.
I don't know if you can see, these are all the students. Most of them are international. They wanted to board the train. We couldn't board the train because immediately we started wanting to board the train. There were bombings that were continuously happening. It feels...
All right, so as I stated, there are no good actors in this. Not one. And Truss certainly isn't one, and neither is Boris, nor Biden, nor Obama before him. Or actually, I could even say that I mean, Trump has come out and said some things that was inflammatory, I have to say. And he's changed his tone somewhat since then, which is absolutely required. Hillary Clinton, she's a nobody. She needs There are no good actors. None. You cannot find me one. Not one good actor in this. But there's a lot of innocent people. So Truss, the next time you advise people to go fight in wars where they really should not be concerned with, you got to make sure you give guidance. So let me give some guidance for her call to arms. So to my white British soldiers, if you go to Ukraine, please don't become radicalized and become a Nazi. Also, if you're black, if you're Asian, if you're a minority, if you have a handicap, if you are mixed race, if you are gay, if you are Jewish, if you are not the right religion, do not, oh, what is it? If your eyes are not the right color, do not go to Ukraine to fight for the freedom of Europe. Okay, friends, I know this went long, but I had to do it. You guys take care, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Yeah. I'll see you all later.